While we are all awaiting future developments in the ongoing Richard Allen case, we decided that one way for us all to better understand what's going on, and what may happen in the future, would be to take a close look at the principals in the legal case. Defense attorneys Brad Rozzi and Andy Baldwin, prosecutor McLeland, and Judge Fran Gull.
We covered Andy Baldwin a few weeks back. Now we're going to take a look at defense attorney Brad Rozzi. In today's episode, we're going to focus on what he's like outside the courtroom. Tomorrow, we will concentrate on him as a lawyer.
Let's start by hearing from one of his peers. Logansport, Indiana attorney Andrew Ackey told us about the beginning of his professional association with Brad Rozzi.
After graduating law school, I was a deputy prosecutor in Cass and had many cases against Bradley.
Would he be the kind of defense attorney that you'd dread going up against in those days, or you knew it would be a good fight? Or
no, I didn't dread it. I welcomed it because I knew that, back then I knew, and even today with the cases we have today, when Brad is on the other side, you had better be prepared because he will be prepared. And so I wouldn't say that by any means I didn't dread it. It's just, kind of the nature of the beast, if you will. What fun is it to go up against someone that's not prepared? What fun is it to go up against someone who doesn't really push you to be a better lawyer? With Brad, you have to be prepared. And so you have to look for little intricacies, or little cracks in his case, to be able to win or be successful to get a good outcome for your clients.
Andrew eventually lived quite close to Brad, which led to a memorable out-of-court meeting.
But I will tell you, when I first moved across the street from Brad, I was a prosecutor at this time, and his kids had brought some fireworks over to the house. And they were like, "Oh, Andrew, would you set these fireworks off with us? My dad doesn't want." And I'm like, "Well, go ask your dad. He'll do it." And they're like, no, please. And I said, okay. Well, I have not a long driveway, but it's maybe 100 feet long. And it was July. We had fireworks. And it was a really dry year that year. And so I pull out some Roman candles and I light one, and these balls started shooting out of this firework. And I'm thinking, where in the heck am I going to shoot these things off at? And I look, the trees are dry as heck. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to set our whole neighborhood on fire. And so I start shooting them down my driveway, but instead of fizzling out, they start pounding Brad's house. And I am honestly terrified at this point. And about 3 or 4 minutes later, 2 sheriff's deputies pull up. And I recognized one of them, and it was Gary. I'll just use his first name. It was Gary. And Gary's like, "Andrew, what's going on? We got a report that you're setting fireworks off and shooting them at people's houses." And I'm like, "What?" You don't want to know what I said exactly, but I was essentially like, what in the heck is going on here? And my face is beat red. I'm mortified. I'm a prosecutor. I'm thinking, oh man, I can just see this headline in the newspaper. And Brad walked out of his house just rolling, like dying laughing. And I'm like, "Did you call the police?" And he's like, "Yeah, I called them." And I'm like, oh, I said a few things I probably shouldn't have said with kids around, but that was one of the most memorable stories that I have with Bradley.
My name is Anya Kane. I'm a journalist.
And I'm Kevin Greenlee. I'm an attorney.
We first connected while looking into the Burger Chef murders, an Indiana cold case. Together, we built a spreadsheet documenting hundreds of cases of restaurant-related homicides. That original spreadsheet gave way to our podcast, The Murder Sheet.
Now we maintain that same research-centric, investigative approach as we look into all sorts of homicides, including unsolved cases, historical crimes, and, of course, restaurant murders.
We don't just chat about the headlines. Our podcast is a platform for our journalism. The Murder Sheet focuses on investigative reporting, thoughtful analysis, thorough research, and in-depth interviews. We're the Murder Sheet, and this is
The Delphi Murders. Brad Rozzi for the defense, Part 1. Hitting the big guys every play.
Brad Rozzi works in Cass County, Indiana, in the city of Logansport in particular. If you're not from the area, you may wonder what Logansport is like. Here's resident Tony Willison. He's been one of Brad's clients in the past.
Logansport is where two rivers meet. The Eel and the Wabash joined together here. It was historically a big railroad town. The railroads ran through here, have a big railroad yards out by 18th Street. Logansport's really a pretty small city, probably population roughly 17 to 20,000. We don't have a Chick-fil-A, I can tell you that, so that's disturbing. But we do have a Culver's and a Wendy's now, so we're happy about that. No, we're a small community, pretty much rural Indiana. You know, I mean, you've got Logansport, and we've got a meat packing plant, some, larger industry, but then it's really agriculture around this area.
Brad grew up in the area. Here's Brian Martinez, who spent several years working in Brad's law office.
His mom was, him growing up, his mom was a waitress and his dad was a police officer. And his brother is also in law enforcement. His cousins, there's a lot of Rosies here in town.
Here's Steve Griffey, an area businessman.
I tell people Rosies are like Smiths, and in Logansport there's a lot of Rosies and involved in a lot of different things.
Here's former prosecutor Randy Head.
His family he's got a lot of family members who are police officers going back generations. His dad was chief of the police department. He's got cousins who've been on the police department and chief of the police department. The name Rozzi is very well known in Logansport.
The Rozzi name in Logansport goes back a long time, and his father-in-law is Mr. Hillis, and they're just well-respected people and have always had a level of involvement within our community, the entire family. I guess I feel like their commitment to community service has always been there at whatever level it may be.
Vicki Krantz knew Brad Rozzi when he was just a kid. What was he like as a kid?
A lot of fun. He enjoyed the outdoors. He was very active, enjoyed the outdoors, camping and things with his family.
After hiring him as his attorney, Tony learned more about Brad's background.
I found out after he became my attorney that he graduated a few years behind my sister here in Logansport. And they were lifeguards together at the city pool. And after getting to know Brad, he was a football player. Now, if you've ever met Brad Rozzi, Brad is not 6'7", 280. He's more like 5'9", 5'10", 180. And he plays nose guard. Defensive nose guard. You know anything about football? That's like in the trenches every play. And I guess when I found that out, I was just blown away because I played football and I am 6'7", and he's not. And I thought, wow, what's a little guy like him doing in that?
Tony would have guessed Brad would have played a different position.
I was expecting to hear running back being a little guy who run around people. No, he's in there hitting the big guys every play. I think that goes a lot to his demeanor, his personality.
Vicki still remembers when Brad told her he wanted to become a lawyer.
But I met up with him at some time, his later teens after he graduated. And we were having this conversation, and he was all hyped up. He was going to go to law school. And I was just blown out of, I was really blown away. I go, great. I just didn't see him as a lawyer because I saw Brad as a young man being outdoors and having a lot of fun fishing and camping, and he had his mindset on it, and boy, he sure did, didn't he?
The love of the outdoors that Vicki remembered seeing in Brad when he was just a kid stayed with him even after he became an attorney. This may surprise some people who only know him from seeing him in court.
Oh, yeah, you get your stereotypes in your head of an outdoorsman. You wouldn't think someone that could wear a suit or tie a tie correctly every time or whatnot. But, he looks like a city attorney when he's in court, but he loves the outdoors and nature and being in it. He's a hunter himself. He and his brother went hunting. I think it might have been just last year. We were waiting to get into court, and he told me about it, the vacation he and his brother took hunting elk in, I think it was in Colorado or Montana. Had gone to the end of the trip, and neither one of them got what they were looking for. I mean, it'd just been a long, cold trip. His brother's a state trooper. And then they both got like big elk, like the last possible second. Like they split up. They'd been together the whole trip. And they decided to split up to cover more ground, and they each got one. And they had to call in help to clean the animals and to transport everything back down to the base of the mountain. And it was pretty dramatic. I got the idea that it was rugged and it was very hard going. I don't think the weather was very good. So they were able to get that back on the very last possible day before they had to come home.
It also seems important to Brad to share his love of the outdoors with his children.
I know when his kids were very small, I had a pond I lived on. He brought them out and they'd all fish. And I know the first time he brought them out, I don't think he ever dropped the line in because I ended up helping him, and they were catching fish so fast that all he could do was throw them back and put another worm on. He had 3 kids, and it was a circus.
He also works to help introduce other children to the great outdoors. Brad Rozzi is very active in an organization called Freedom Hunt.
Once a year, I think they take disabled children hunting. And so I think that speaks to his character as well. Not only does he volunteer his time, helping other people, but he's, trying to promote his sport and helping disabled children.
The organization was founded by Steve Griffey, who we heard from earlier in this episode. We asked Steve to tell us more about the group.
Sure. It's a youth organization. It's for special needs youth. We take them on a outdoor adventure weekend during the Indiana special youth deer season. We camp out with the kids and do all of our cooking outdoor in we call it the chow hall tent, and we take them deer hunting and fishing and have different activities for them throughout the weekend.
Brad got involved with the group after he heard about it. But in the last few years, his work with the group has become even more extensive.
He is kind of the voice of the Freedom Hunt. A few years ago, the person that was helping me run it decided to step back, and I wanted somebody, that could help me run the thing. And I talked to Brad about doing that, and he really stepped up to where, like I said, he's kind of the voice of the Freedom Hunt now. And he obviously is comfortable in front of people, and I'm not. I hate talking in front of people. So any of the meetings we have or anything like that, he usually takes the lead in that kind of stuff, and communication with all the other volunteers he takes care of, and we together do all the planning, the dates and times and events, and we have fundraisers that we put our heads together for all that kind of stuff.
All of this work, of course, is designed so that the kids' weekend is as well planned and as memorable for them all as possible. We asked Steve to tell us exactly what the event is like for the kids who get to take part in it.
They come into camp on Friday afternoon, and we pair them with an adult that's an experienced outdoors person. We have men and women, and we have boys and girls that come to the event. Friday, we have a big meal, and we have kind of an opening ceremony to go over, how the weekend's going to go and that kind of stuff. And then Saturday morning, I get the kids up well before sunlight, and their guides come to camp if they're not already in camp, and take the kids out deer hunting, and they'll hunt until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and then come back, and we have some kind of activity on Saturday for them, whether it's we've done all kinds of stuff. We've had fishing tournaments, and we've had paintball shooting contests, and we've had people bring horses into camp, just a variety of things to, fill their day Saturday until it's time to go back out hunting again in the afternoon. And then Sunday morning is a repeat of that, and we try to get everybody back into camp around 11 o'clock Sunday, when we have our closing ceremony. And the kids come away with all kinds of stuff. We give them clothes and boots and hats and gloves and equipment and all kinds of things that they might need in the future if they go hunting or fishing on their own. And then we also have a drawing for a whole bunch of real nice door prizes that they can win, TVs and all kinds of stuff, just camping equipment and electronic stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I've had kids' parents tell me that they look forward to coming to Freedom Hunt like they look forward to Christmas morning. So I know they like it. We try to keep it real fun and make sure they have plenty to do and are wore out by the time it's time to go home.
One thing we heard from Steve and Brian is that working with Brad is a great experience.
He's a really good guy. He's got a good sense of humor, and I don't believe that he and I have ever had any, hard feelings towards each other or disagreement or anything. He's really easy to get along with.
Brad is a really, really good boss. He's probably, I haven't had too many jobs over the years, but he has probably been the best boss that I've ever had. He actually co-signed for me on my first vehicle when I was 17 years old. He's just been awesome. He's really involved. Even I still, have lunch with him maybe once a month or something, or maybe a couple times. He knows my family, and he's just really close to his employees. He actually took us on he took the office on a Vegas trip.
He took the whole office to Vegas? That's pretty generous boss.
I know. I had never worked at a place where somebody had done that before, and he took us all to Vegas, and it was my first time going over there, and it was awesome. He's just a really great guy, and I keep saying that because it's true. When my wife and I got married, he actually married us. When my parents got married, he has an older, I think it's a 68 or 69 Camaro that he volunteered to take my parents to the wedding. And so he was like, yeah, I'll put on a hat and everything, and I wear my suit, and I wear my nice suit. And he's like, I'll drive you guys around. And he's just, he's always trying to be helpful. And, that's one of the reasons why, I feel like a lot of people love him, and my family really loves him, just because he's just always trying to help. Not just them, but just everyone that he meets. He's always trying to be helpful in some way.
And we're constantly, full of practical jokes on each other, or we a lot of times make just little fun bets between the two of us, but embarrasses the other one if they lose. And one time we had a bet about something, I don't remember what it was about, but the loser had to wear pink camouflage during the Freedom Hunt weekend, and he lost. And so I've got some nice pictures of him in pink camouflage.
Steve also told us that he and Brad like to play practical jokes on each other. We asked him to tell us about one of the more memorable ones.
He got me really, really, really good on a joke, and it was about a month of him setting it up with different things and conversations, and he got me really, really, really good.
To boil down the backstory, Steve was worried about a potential infraction related to his charity.
I called Brad because I was concerned that, we would have some kind of ramifications over it and this and that. And we hung up, and he said, I'm going to call the DNR and talk to them about it. And then he called me a couple days later and convinced me that he had talked to some higher up, and they needed to come and interview us, and it was going to be a big deal. And so he set this quote meeting up between me and him and these two higher ups of the DNR to get together at his office. And I was upset about it. I thought, oh my God, just had this. I just didn't want the organization to have any kind of bad, rep or press over it or anything like that. It was just a silly mistake. And so anyway, I go to his office for this meeting, and his secretary, I walked in, his secretary said, oh no, Brad's not here. He had, I don't know if he was out of the state or out of town or whatever. And she said, but he left his envelope for you. And I opened the envelope. It was a picture of Brad sticking his tongue out at me, holding a sign that said, ha ha, I got you.
Another theme we heard from multiple people was how close Brad is to his family.
Yeah, you get the impression that he spends an awful lot of time with his kids. Most of his free time is going to be with them. He's just always going to their sporting events. He's just super involved. I've gone over to his house before with his wife. You can just tell. They're even though they've been married for however many years, you can tell they're in love. So it's nice. I think it's a very good example.
He really enjoys his family time. He's got a real nice wife and kids.
But the absolute most common thing we heard from those who know Brad best is that he is simply a good man who makes those around him feel valued.
He's just really a hell of a good guy. I mean, I just can't emphasize that enough. I mean, he's good people, Not everyone in the world is that way, but he is one of them that, I think he's one of those guys, whether he's your friend or whether you're his client, he's always going to have a level of respect for you. And I appreciate that for a man in his position. He's just a real genuine person, I mean, I've sent a lot of business his ways over the years because I believe in him. I like him as a person. he's the type of person I can call and just check up on him. I'll text him Happy Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving, and he responds. I think this year he told me he was sitting in a deer blind somewhere hunting, first thing Thanksgiving morning. So, I appreciate that. He's not a stuffed shirt, I guess, is the best way to say it.
In tomorrow's episode, we will hear about what Brad Rozzi is like as an attorney. Before we go, we imagine some of you may be interested in learning how you can help support Freedom Hunt.
We accept donations of any sort, whether it be monetary or equipment. Like I said, we give the kids a whole lot of stuff. We spend several $1,000s just on things that we give to the kids for the weekend, whether it's clothing or binoculars or boots or anything like that. So we're always looking for donations for that kind of stuff. And we're a 501c not-for-profit organization or whatever. So some of that stuff could even be taken as a tax break if people want to do that.
We will include a link to the Freedom Hunt website in our notes.
Thanks so much for listening to the Murder Sheet. If you have a tip concerning one of the cases we cover, please email us at murdersheet@gmail.com. If you have actionable information about an unsolved crime, please report it to the appropriate authorities.
If you're interested in joining our Patreon, that's available at www.patreon.com/murdersheet. If you want to tip us a bit of money for records requests, you can do so at www.buymeacoffee.com/murdersheet. We very much appreciate any support.
Special thanks to Kevin Tyler Greenlee, who composed the music for the Murder Sheet, and who you can find on the web at kevintg.com.
If you're looking to talk with other listeners about a case we've covered, you can join the Murder Sheet discussion group on Facebook. We mostly focus our time on research and reporting, so we're not on social media much. We do try to check our email account, but we ask for patience as we often receive a lot of messages. Thanks again for listening.